Representative Julia Johnson didn't raise her voice. She didn't posture. She didn't perform outrage. And that's exactly why what she did to Secretary Noem was so effective. In a matter of minutes, Johnson stripped away the slogan, "Restoring the Rule of Law," and replaced it with evidence of something far more dangerous: a federal agency exercising power without boundaries, and a secretary unwilling to acknowledge where the Constitution draws the line.
Okay. Thank you.
Is recognized.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to respond to a lot of what Secretary Noem has just testified to. And gentlemen, I have some comments that I hope you'll take back to the Secretary and to the department. If there's anything that is clear about what is going on in this country, is that the rhetoric and fear that is happening is at an all-time escalated high. And we're all describing different aspects of it. Fear of law enforcement, fear of citizens, fear of people who are legally in this country. Because it's the rhetoric that is happening from the very top, that is being decimated down level, and that is really, really dangerous. And one of the things that the Secretary said was she is restoring the rule of law. That is absolutely not true, because the rule of law is founded on two fundamental principles: that if you are going to be subject to a criminal arrest in this country, that there is probable cause to do so. You can't just snatch somebody walking into a coffee shop because of the color of their skin. There's no probable cause for that. And also that you will get due process. And that is not happening. And so you're seeing is an overwhelming frustration of the American people in this country, that the lack of respect and regard for the rule of law by this administration, and in particular by this secretary, is at a level that we have never seen and violates all of the constitutional norms and all of the principles of legal fairness in this country. And you're seeing that manifest itself in threats to law enforcement and bubbling over, because people are frustrated. And they are channeling that frustration because the administration is not listening and is only doubling down on the rhetoric. You know, this notion that I think my colleagues highlighted, that we're only going to pursue serious threats. It's just not true. I visited an ICE facility outside of Dallas, and over 70% of them were classified as the lowest threat level, as never having a criminal record at all. But yet they were there because of the color of their skin. There was not a probable cause. They're not a threat to this country. They have no criminal history at all. I fully support, as does everyone on this committee, Homeland Security focusing on threats to our national security. We want cybersecurity. We want terroristic threats from abroad to be stopped. Absolutely. None of us want a recreation of 9/11, but we also do not want, under any level, the trampling of our constitutional rights and the legal system of due process. I have a poster here to highlight 3 American citizens that were arrested by ICE who had done nothing wrong. They presented themselves as American citizens, but yet were still trampled, assault. One had broken ribs, a brain injury, an older gentleman by being knocked down to the ground after he said, "I'm an American citizen." But yet they did not stop. And that is a huge problem. When somebody says, "I'm an American citizen," to ICE, and ICE does not stop and continues to assault them and physically berate them and then hold them for days and days on end without a due process hearing, that is a problem. And it is not stopping. We have brought these concerns to the Secretary and to agencies like yourself in these hearings time and time again through multiple letters. We've all written letters that have gone unresponded, because this cannot happen in our country. And the reality of it is, in any law enforcement situation, and what we have happening out into the public, is there are ICE agents and there are Border Patrol agents that are doing their great job. They're doing what they're supposed to do. But there are also bad actors. There are people who are exceeding their authority. The power's gone to their head. The intimidation is outrageous. And there's no effort to rein them in by the FBI. There's no effort to rein them in by the Homeland Security. There's no effort to overcorrect. Just like one of my colleagues highlighted, the reinstatement of one that was inappropriate. And these efforts are breaking down the trust of the American people. I hope you take these concerns back, because they need to be addressed if we're going to address the violence in this country. I yield back.
Gentlelady yields back. I now recognize the gentleman from Arizona, Mr. Creighton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for holding this committee hearing today. Thank you for the witnesses. Director Kent, you talked about what keeps you up at night. I believe you said, we don't know who came into the country.
What Johnson put on the record wasn't policy disagreement. It was a constitutional inventory. She described a system where enforcement has drifted away from legal standards and into something more arbitrary, probable cause treated as optional, due process delayed or denied, oversight ignored, and the consequences falling not on criminals, but on people with the least ability to push back. She didn't speak in abstractions. She named outcomes. American citizens, identifying themselves as citizens, tackled, injured, detained anyway. Veterans who survived combat, raised families, removed from their homes without justification. Parents and spouses held for days with no charges, no clarity, no recourse. Not because they were dangerous, not because they were violent, but because power was exercised first and explained later, if at all. Johnson's argument was surgical. The rule of law doesn't mean enforcement without limits. It means enforcement with limits. It means the government must meet the same legal standards it demands of the public. Probable cause has to exist. Detention has to be justified. Rights have to apply regardless of who someone is or how they look. She warned that what's happening now flips that principle on its head. Instead of law restraining power, power is redefining the law. Congressional letters go unanswered. Investigations disappear. Officers whose conduct is officially condemned are quietly reinstated days later. Accountability evaporates, not loudly, but administratively. And that's how trust dies, not in one dramatic moment, but through repetition, through unanswered questions, through patterns no one corrects. Johnson made the larger danger impossible to miss. Once constitutional protections become conditional for one group, they don't stay contained. History doesn't support that fantasy. Rights eroded in one place inevitably erode everywhere else. Her warning wasn't partisan. It wasn't ideological. It was foundational. A government that can detain citizens without cause today can redefine everyone's rights tomorrow. A system that ignores due process in the name of expediency eventually abandons it altogether. And a country that allows unchecked authority doesn't lose freedom all at once. It misplaces it piece by piece until it's gone. Julia Johnson wasn't arguing for open borders or closed borders. She was arguing for guardrails. Because a nation's strength isn't measured by how aggressively it enforces power, but by whether it can enforce the law without becoming the thing the law was meant to restrain. And once that line disappears, no one gets to decide who's safe on the other side of it.